How are you? I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever it is that you find yourself listening to this message. My name is Sabrina Militello. I am a coach and owner of Empower Her Coaching, and we're going to get into a conversation today about overcoming fear in your business, overcoming fear in your career advancement, overcoming fear in whatever bucket you want to put it in, of you trying to make forward movement, you trying to break through, and fear is kind of there niggling at you and causing you to stop in your forward progress. We're gonna dive deep into this today. And one thing that I need you to recognize for yourself before we get going is that you're already in the conversation. And that in and of itself is a big middle finger to fear. And I want you to recognize that you're in the work of seeking knowledge, seeking more growth, seeking development of self. And someone who is truly afraid of their success isn't doing that. So first and foremost, a big hand claps to you, big snaps to you, however you want to celebrate, but just acknowledge that the fact that you're here seeking information around this stuff is a big check in the win column for you, okay? So overcoming fear, specifically when it comes to achievement, right? I want you to start by asking yourself where that fear is coming from. Where is the fear coming from? And what is the fear of? Are you afraid of butterflies? Or is it a fear of judgment? Are you afraid of people having something to say about what you're doing? Are you afraid of failing? Are you afraid of looking silly? Are you afraid of what is it that is causing the fear to come up for you? You need to identify that first, right? Because so much of the fears that we feel are not actually what we think they are. And I'm going to give you some guidance about how to navigate your fear. I've got two main points that I want to share with you. But first of all, I'm somebody who has walked through a ton of fear in my life. Fear for my safety, fear for like my future and what I would turn out to be like, and then fear of failing, fear of being judged. Like the fears that we experience, so many of them are intellectual as opposed to being real fears that we experience to our safety or to our security. So understanding that, first of all, that the fear that we're talking about intellectual fears, fears that exist in your mind that seldom, yes, I'll say the word seldom, turn out to actually have any basis in reality. So much of the things we're afraid of, so much of the things that we worry about never actually transpire in our real lives. There was a study that was done, and I think they said something like 92% of the things that we worry about, that occupy our brain space, that we're fearful of, or we just hold anxiety about happening, never actually happen. Can you think about that? 92% of how you're spending your mental energy, let alone the things that you're allowing to hold you back from pursuing the big, beautiful life that you want, never actually come to pass. So there's that. But coming back to the point of intellectual fears, we have to get really granular, as in really down to the nitty-gritty of what those intellectual fears are of. Are you afraid of somebody judging you? Are you afraid of failing? Because I have a little devil's advocate moment to share with you. A lot of the time, and this is what I've garnered from my own experience, as well as, gosh, I've been in 1,900 hours worth of coaching sessions with women on their goal achievement. What I've gathered through that exposure to humankind is that we don't actually fear failing. We fear being seen failing. The biggest intellectual fear that most people have is fear of judgment. You don't fear the fact that you're going to fail at whatever this endeavor is in your business, in your career. You're afraid of being seen failing. And so we kind of rewind that back to a fear of judgment. You're afraid of other people's opinions, other people's judgments. Bob Proctor in his work, Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life, he mentions, and I've listened to this audio I don't know how many times, but he mentions that if you really understood how little other people actually think, you wouldn't be concerned with whether or not they're thinking about you. And that sounds like a judgment statement, doesn't it? A little bit. But if you really think about how you walk through your life, are you spending your time thinking and judging other people? Or are you just going through your day, kind of figuring out how you're going to make this thing work and that thing work, and you're overcome with your to-do list or what they need from you or whatever? You're not spending your time sitting in judgment about what homegirl over there is up to on TikTok today. It may be a passing thought when you're scrolling TikTok, but is it actively taking up a lot of your capacity? No. And yet we think that that's the reality for other people. Any move that we make, anything that we do, people are just sitting there and nitpicking and taking notes about how terrible it is and how much we suck, and you shouldn't wear that, you shouldn't say that, you shouldn't look like that. They're not. They may have a passing thought, but it's not occupying their brain space. And so is it worth the dreams, the goals, the aspirations you have for your life to be set aside, put on the back burner, based off of a fleeting, momentary thought another human being may have about it? I really want you to consider that. Consider that. And then go back to that understanding that we don't actually fear failing. We fear being seen failing. We don't want to look silly. Our ego is going to be bruised, all of those things. But this goes back to a vision conversation, right? You have to be so connected and dialed in to what it is you're doing all of this for. Why do you want to start your business? Why do you want to make that big career jump? Why is earning more income important to you and your family? What is it all for? When you get connected to that big, deep why, all of a sudden, the momentary judgments of other people don't seem to matter quite as much. I don't really care what people think about me. I don't really care what anybody has to say about what it is that I'm doing here. I know why I'm here. I know the mission that I'm on. I know the women that I'm placed to serve. And that's what occupies my time, not preoccupation with what somebody else might think about how I choose to show up in that space. So again, what is the fear of? And can you really get so deeply connected to your vision and what you're doing it for, that that fear of judgment of others can lose a little bit of its power on you? So I have two things that I want to share with you about how to understand that fear can only set you back. It can only put a stopper on what it is that you're shooting for, if you allow it to. So much of the conversations we have are mindset-based conversations, right? Where we choose to place our focus, where we choose to place our time and our energy and our attention. And this fear conversation is no different. And I want to give you two different ways of looking at fear, the fears that you experience when you are setting out to achieve a new goal, to start that business, to go and ask your boss for that raise, to put yourself forward for that promotion. When you are putting yourself in these positions, maybe to go and drum up funding for your company or your business, whatever it is that you're doing right now in your career advancement, when fear shows up, I wanted you to consider two different ways of thinking about it. Different way number one, I really should have like a framework that names these properly, but I'm just gonna spit it straight. Different way number one, fear actually, if you choose to think about it this way, can keep you aligned. And what I mean by that is that when you're afraid, it means you're doing something different, right? When you're afraid, it means you're pushing yourself beyond your current capacity. When you have fear of venturing outside of what it is you've always done, it means you're starting to turn your back on your comfort zone. And so fear in your career progression, in your business growth, can actually be a way for you to measure how in alignment you are with where it is that you want to go. Because if you're having those feelings of, this feels uncomfortable, I feel a little bit, I don't know, then you know that you're heading in the right direction. When fear is absent, and again, we're talking about intellectual fear, right? The worry, the concern, those kinds of fears. I just want to be really clear about that. When fear is absent, we're pretty comfortable. Would you not agree? You're kind of chilling. You're hanging out. Things are going well. You're comfortable, which in and of itself is not a bad thing, but it does presuppose some element of status quo, that you're not pushing forward anymore. You're not pushing beyond your perceived limitations anymore. You're not going after something that you don't quite know whether you can achieve anymore. So fear can powerfully be a data point, if you want to think about it that way, to keep you aligned with the actions you know are necessary to get you to where you want to go. So that's different way number one. Different way number two that you can start to think about fear is that it's letting you know that you're really in the game. I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Brené Brown, but she talks about being in the arena, right? There's an incredible poem that she references. I can't remember who it was that was the original poet or the original person that wrote it out, but she talks about it a lot. And she talks about being in the arena and daring greatly. And the people that win are the ones that put themselves in the arena through blood, sweat, tears, and are willing to go after it. And whatever it is that they have to go through to achieve their goals, to achieve their dreams. And that we have no time for the people that are in the stands judging those people that are in the arena. It's a wonderful quote. Feel free to Google Brené Brown and it will come up somewhere because she references it a lot as a foundational piece of her work. But it's this understanding that when you're feeling afraid, when you're feeling uncomfortable, when you're feeling as if you're on unstable ground a little bit intellectually in the pursuit of your goals, it lets you know that you're really in the game. You're really doing it. And that is a feeling that you should relish, because so much of our human experience requires us to be in pursuit of something. Brendan Burchard talks a lot about meaningful pursuits being a foundational piece of human needs, the human motivational needs. Meaningful pursuit, being in pursuit of something. If you think about a famous person that has let it all fall apart, or maybe took their own life, or disappeared off the face of the earth, or went into a destructive cycle after reaching some level of success, one of the main reasons that happens, and I've read a lot of studies about human potential and why it drops off, one of the main reasons that's correlated with that happening is that they stop pursuing more. They get to that place where they've maybe always envisioned, always wanted to get to, and they sit in the comfort of that. And because they're no longer pursuing anything, they no longer reestablish new goals, they're no longer kind of thinking about, okay, what's next? Let me celebrate this, be really grateful for this, root myself in the, oh my gosh, reality of this. But then what else is available? What else is possible? Whether that's in my own achievement or how I can give back, how I can further serve other people coming behind me, how I can continue to live into my legacy, how I can serve my family at a deeper level now that I have this success. Do you see what I'm saying? So being in pursuit of something is a fundamental human driver. And if we're not, that's when we start to feel stuck. We start to feel stagnant. We start to lose will. The days lose color. We answer every time somebody says, "How are you?" Fine. Could be better. That kind of again, like color seeps out of us when we stop being in pursuit of something greater. So feeling fear, feeling uncomfortable, feeling a little bit unstable ground underneath you is a wonderful, wonderful tool for you to use to let you know that you're really doing it, you're really in the game, you're in the arena of life, and you're getting after your dreams. So those are two different ways that I want you to start thinking about that sensation of fear. Remember the intellectual fears that you have. Think about them as a way that you can reference to make sure you're still aligned, you're still pursuing, you're still getting outside of your comfort zone, you're still moving forward in the direction of your goals. And then use it as a way to let you know, it's almost like a reinforcement, like a motivational tool. You're doing it, babe. You're in it. And shift that relationship. Fear is not the absence of, fear should not be something that you fear. It shouldn't be something that you try to run away from. Fear is actually a very normal and useful part of your growth process if you choose to see it that way. However, if you choose to allow that sensation of fear, that interpretation of fear to stop you from doing the things that you really want to do, then nothing grows there, right? Nothing develops there. You have to change your relationship with fear and what you make it mean in order for it to continue to push you forward and get you to the place that you've ultimately always wanted to be. I hope this conversation served you today to really think about the things that come up intellectually to stop us, to put pause, to make us feel as if we're not on the right path or start doubting that this is possible for us. Start thinking about them differently so that they no longer have that kind of power over you. Give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed this conversation. Consider subscribing to the podcast. I'm thinking about season 2 of the Claiming Your Success podcast already. We record our first episode of season 2 this coming Sunday, and that's where my brain is. But give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing to the YouTube channel if that would serve you, so you get notified whenever a new drop comes. Share this with somebody if you think they would get something out of it. And I would love to hear your thoughts. Either comment below or come find me on any of my social channels, email, wherever, and let me know what your thoughts are about overcoming the fears that keep you stopped in your business, in your career, in whatever area of life it is that you're really wanting to see forward momentum. Until next time, take care.